that whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
So hello there, beloved Ascension Pioneers, and welcome to this video where I will be talking about the sacredness of polarity integration once again through the eyes of illumined union, the gender specific, and of course what we call our inner divine union. So this will be in combination of messages of the beloved and illumined union, the Elohim channeled message as well, and of course talking about what is happening at the moment on our planet Earth and at this time of the shift. So as you have noticed yourself probably at this time, there is a wide deepening and the rising of energy of what is called the movement of the sacred feminine. Everyone now talks about the sacred feminine. It's time for the woman to rise. And as I'm just simply as a creator being observing these tendencies now that are happening within the awakening humanity, there is still a lot of polarization happening. So as you know, at the first fringes of our awakening journey, we will be seeing things as what I call partial truths that lead into our ascending reality, or is a part of our ascending reality, which is not the same as that fully integrated truth of union within illumination, which is that full truth of physical ascension. So at this time, there is a vast variety of people talking about the sacred goddess, the archetype of the feminine, or even the Gaia as her awakening and our role in assistance to planetary ascension. But what I have also noticed is that a lot of these beings who are sending out messages that are beautiful messages in their own, a lot of times they're addressing only the female as the goddess, as the one who initiates the journey, as the sacred feminine, as the woman who is here to teach the male aspect of the equation, respect and honor and integrity. There is nothing wrong with this, except that when our mind, as we're still ascending, does not fully understand the whole integration process in terms of divine equals, and I've talked about divine equality before, which simply observes the non-gender specific role of everything in its evolutionary process as creation experiences itself and it evolves, and all of us is a part of it. Once you understand creation at its root, and this is what those of us who are creation pillars here we've come to establish, is that primordial understanding of creation, which is non-gender specific, but it flows through the primary creation forces, which are divine masculine, divine feminine, as the foundation of life in creation, because otherwise life as we know it in polarity would not exist. I've talked about before the difference between polarization and unified polarity, because without polarity, which is one of the divine principles of the creation, we would not get divine trinity, and therefore we would not get all life in creation, which is the spectacle of how all life comes into being. But what we do in our modern spirituality many times is we confuse that, and we still ascribe gender-specific roles to what's happening now in the awakening humanity and our planetary evolving consciousness. The role of gender in itself was to see and witness creation from these two, what we would say, dual forces of creation. In their essence, at the top of that which we call the core essence, they were never dual. They always flowed, and they still always do, because it's all happening simultaneously in the eternal truth of one. They always coexist as one. They're divine equals. They're devotional partners that coexist, because without them being natural partners, life again would not exist as we know it. The thing is that as we drop in our awareness and forgetfulness, and especially in the fallen frequency, when we sort of kind of fragment our reality so much that we can't see the whole in its essence of what the whole is. So many times we create these compartmentalized aspects that we call the truth, which are just parts and fragments that people, as they're starting to awaken, they experience, and because they're rising to the surface at that moment, they might say, well, that's the truth. I have the whole truth. And I will never forget reading that in one of the books from the Keys of the Serious Consciousness, when they said, you know, the moment you say, I've got it all figured out and I'm completely balanced, your growth stops because your ego has come at the forefront. It said, you know what, I got it all figured out, stop me growing. And this is what happens, and it's happening now because we're in this state where the majority is this still partial awakening. We're still blossoming, but there's very few beings on the planet who have complete polarity integration, which is not the same. It's not an equal to balance. When we talk about balance, you can exist at many levels of awareness, and you will achieve balance within those states of awareness, but you will still perhaps not achieve a complete polarity integration, which is the return of the unified truth in creation as it is, as it was at its beginning of every birth, as it is at the beginning of every birth in creation, even you as a soul. So what I notice a lot of the times is that this addressing of the importance of the woman puts aside the importance of the man, because again, we're putting the creation, which is happening at the creative forces aspect, and we're ascribing it to a gender specific role, and we're saying this is what the woman does, this is what the man does. And again, our modern spirituality, what we do through that is we simply replace the old gender specific roles of when we said the feminine force was so repressed and the women were so not respected and acknowledged, and now it's time for the women to rise up and teach men that respect. Again, you see, we're just doing the same. It's just seeing it from a different angle, but it's still from a fragmented perspective. So you've turned around, you've seen, okay, that perhaps didn't work before, now I'm going to try the other opposing angle so that I can see it and view it from this side of the experience. And this is how Source expands through its individualized aspects. It wants to see everything from every angle. This is why now it's happening what it's happening. And it's not wrong. It's simply a perspective within the evolutionary whole. But what I want to present to you today, and as you know, I always talk about the ascended, the illumined truth, is that point when you get it, when you really understand, and not just mentally, this is not a mental understanding, that this was never about roles through the gender. This was not about what women now need to do in this cycle of creation, what men need to do. This was about the return of union of both as dual but one. So not dual in terms of dualistic, but dual in terms of higher potency of creativity, which exists because two are sovereign on their own, and then the third can be created through that beautiful, unique sovereignty. So we can't have that as long as there's an aspect within us that's only addressing or leaning towards a more feminine expression, that we express so much as feminine that we start to associating with as the gender specific role. So when we say, well, women are now here to do this and that and teach men to behave like this and be like that through our own conscious example, that of course is one aspect of the truth, because it applies you coming into your feminine, sacred femininity power, absolute truth. But then again, when you come into your power, you don't come into a power through teaching another aspect, which then again is just an internal aspect of you, but you perceive it when you're looking still through the glass of the gender, that you have to also in a way teach another to be then this way because you are that way. That still in a way holds polarization within its core, which is imprinted belief system. So as we're seeing and viewing everything from different perspectives and angles, which is what every soul on its journey of self-evolutionary eventual self-realization will do. But when this emphasizing from all those different viewpoints and perspectives will unify, you will see that this, what was playing out, was simply the accessing of every aspect so that eventually you could return to that which is the whole you, which sees all life in creation as one. And you return to that polarity integration, which is divine source, galactic male, galactic female, both represented completely as one. So this is not a process where we simply replace the old gender roles and with new ones, and we say, well, now women will be like that and we're going to have greater power and greater stamina. But there's a lot of people who with that they might either neglect or even sometimes suppress the aspect of the masculine, or vice versa. So this is not about addressing the roles as, you know, what needs to happen, who needs to learn what, because remember, when you're in a partnership, it's not really organic, it's not really evolutionary when you try to teach each other. You know, I'm sure you've all experienced a relationship where you try to play the teacher to the other, and what you witnessed was your own slap in the face, your own mirroring, because the learning through the mind does not occur when you forcefully want to teach someone or want to teach anyone a lesson, which a lot of people still do because their ego is so loud. They're not in that blissful internal union chart state when the whole of you speaks without needing to speak, honestly. So when you return to that state, that blissful inner union, that is an independent, which births the interdependent state of being, which means you and your actions and your inner growth is not in a way dependent upon the other. You perhaps don't even need to relate to have a feeling you are relating with the whole. You are always in relationship with the whole, and yet that comes from your inner union first. And in that aspect, that polarity within you will be fully achieved through that light quotient fulfillment, which will birth your inner union, which will create and manifest the external relationships, but no more at that level of what we would say dependency, or trying to forcefully teach and say, this is my role, this is your role. It will be completely benevolent, gender role specific, free, and really illumined. So when you have within any words, action, deeds through your own embodiment, still a part of you carries that non-completeness, you will in a way address only either the feminine or the masculine aspect of what's happening. Perhaps not necessarily in its full-blown proportions, but even maybe just an aspect of you still participating in that, and that's nothing wrong with that. It's a process. But a full state, a full union is when you see ascension as in physical alchemy, as an alchemical marriage of the inner masculine, feminine prototypes or designs, life forces of creation, which create, which design, which bring all into fruition of life. So one more thing to say here is be tentative, be observing when you do that, because I sometimes notice women addressing only other women and saying sisters, sisterhood, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it's okay for women who have been in competition mode for so long, and because of that suppression they've actually become rivals to their own sisterhood, and there's nothing wrong with awakening to that and becoming respectful towards other women. And yet this is not the end of the path, because to think this is all that it's about, and we say, well, we are ascension, we're in our ascension process with the Gaia, she is our planetary deity, our body through which we're also ascending as a collective. But also so many times I've noticed we address Gaia as the she. It's not, again, gender specific. The she relates to the creation component, because every aspect has its source component, its vertical and its horizontal expression, which is the creation aspect, is the divine mother aspect. So that aspect of Gaia, which is physical, life providing, rich with substance, and what nurtures us and what gives us sustenance in this form, is a part of the component which we call she. But in that way of creation design, Gaia also has a masculine, which is a he. So in that pure benevolent polarization, which is the unified polarity, you will walk through many initiations that will make you see where are you still holding on to these partial views, observational views, and seeing them as partial is okay, but then saying that's the whole truth is going to keep you in a state of illusion, because you will say, I have it all figured out. Sometimes, I notice when I say to someone, well, our path of becoming fully androgynous in this form goes through many steps in the initiations, and it's quite a journey, and people will say, well, I'm already fully balanced. Again, where's this coming from? Because I don't know one single person on this planet that would be fully balanced on all aspects, because the only truth there is to your humble spirit devotion is that you are always expanding, period. You might perceive your consciousness every day at a certain state, and even that is expanding, and it will evolve further, and it will go deeper, and each day anew when you are open. Because when you are humble, you are in allowance state, which makes you always receive more, higher perspectives, more unification, more light of truth. So I think it's time for those of you who are ready to start observing the notions when we're doing that. When sometimes women, because of what they feel has been done to them because of the masculine oppression or suppression, are only feeling comfortable to be with other women. Me, and I know that I come from much higher consciousness when everything is unified, and that's why I was given the name the Giver of Life, as a tantrika being who is of the state of polarity integration, to show others the way of how to do that themselves in their own inner illumined union. And that's the core of my mission here on earth, to plant the seeds of that. And my mission is not dependent upon whether others will do that or not. it's completely out of my control. It's out of my reach. I can only bring that forth. That's my part. That's my initiative I can take. The rest is no longer up to me. So you see, the union birthed from within, the aligning with that is interdependent. It's independent, which births also an interdependent state of co-creation and communication, and that constant communion with yourself, with your source, and others, the whole at large. But it's not to say that my mission has failed and I'm not successful when this is not followed through by beings who would, let's say, would not choose this path of complete unification. Would then I fail my mission? Would then I not do my part? No. I specifically remember when one day we were reading from this beautiful book from Osho, and he said, when are you truly successful? Is it when you have proven yourself, when you had external success, or when you're simply in the state of charged bliss? Because that for me is true success. And to be aligned with what you're supposed to be doing is the ultimate success, which for me, on my path, is to reach that state of self-realization through illumined union. And I cannot say, because as a consciousness being from, I don't know, higher realms, I already know this. And I would say, ah, I've already got that covered up. I don't need to do anything here on earth. You see, that would not be very humble. That would not lead me to the part of where I need to grow through wisdom of experience also here on earth at this particular time. It would lead me partially in union, but it would not unify with all aspects that are presented to me at this time. So you see, it's similar to what's happening with gender-specific roles, that we keep ascribing to what we call ascension. Ascension is not the rise of the divine feminine, nor is ascension the rise of the divine masculine. Ascension is the alchemical marriage of both as one, seen at the level of creation and its core design of creation principles, and how everything in life is structured, is designed, it functions, it fluctuates, and it's always completely whole. Whether from what perspective you're coming from, the unified truth is that which will always give you the same result, the same alignment. Either way you look from it, it's different angles, but the unified truth already incorporates all, and it's always the same result. It's always unified. So it's very simple in a way, and for people it's complex because we've ascribed so much meaning to external conditions that it's hard sometimes for us to find the inner dynamics of what's really, really true. So keep your eyes open that you would not fall only to one extreme and perhaps participate only in the groups that only nurture, or even sometimes to the great extent, worship only the feminine, or vice versa, when the two are not seen as equals, because on earth polarity of expression is in many ways expressed through gender. Yes, gender is a part of that on a third dimensional form. But as we're moving to higher forms of density and opening ourselves to bigger dimensional scopes, we're noticing that that's not all that gender is about. And because of that, gender is already naturally transcended. So you see, it is an organic process. So just as before we said that learning should not be artificially superimposed upon someone and said, I'm here to teach you this and that, and those lessons, which is from ego, learning should be a natural component. So when I am in a relationship with someone and what they embody as an essence naturally alchemically changes me because I'm simply in their presence and it's enough, is that natural learning process when we're both intertwining and naturally learning from each other without teaching each other anything. But we are teaching each other through a natural process. You see, that's the big difference. I hope you can understand that, because it's very simple. And yet it's a subtle difference that we can tune into when we get how much sometimes we can get fanatical about something because we feel it's the only way, it's the only truth. And yet the ascended truth is horizontally allowing all and embracing all perspectives. And I've talked about this before in my video, embracing all perspectives and aligning with your pillar. What is that pillar of the ascended truth for you, and kind of like unifying with a greater aspect of truth on a creation level. So moving from your creation reality into the creation of all life, and eventually what you align with, that is what you serve. And because I align so much with that, that is what I serve, and I devote to beyond anything. So let's say someone would tell me, well, this is how you're supposed to be as a woman now on the planet. And I would simply laugh and say, okay, that perhaps is their perspective and their view of me. And because I'm a woman, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be teaching, shouldn't be saying those things, it's sinful, it's weird. That is just their perspective, because that person has obviously not yet unified from within to understand the gender is not held only a third dimensional perspective. You will see more and more and experience more androgyny and more union with each new level. So you have to be humble to not always say, well, I feel so good, I must have reached the pinnacle of my balanced state. Yes, on that level you have. Moving on, you know that thing when they say next, you know, at the line, and there's a factory line, and there's like, give me next, just next, you know. That's how it is, because we're always so open and constantly expanding. So for us to address only the men and seeing the importance they bring, or only the women, it's time for them to see simply as souls, as beings who God knows, because truly only God knows, their source self knows how much of that integration through their light quotient embodiment they have already achieved. You are not a part of that. You're not a part of another's journey, so you can't know. But what you can align with is your humble devotion to this path of illumined union, which is a constant opening, a constant blossoming into a new state, and constant reaffirmation of creation at its core, which is both your galactic male and female self, the masculine and feminine prototypes of creation. And that way, you truly set yourself free, because you have become non-gender specific. You have embraced this within you. And it's not just a mental, intellectual concept, because now a lot of people are saying, yes, of course, we are all yin and yang, but their embodiment doesn't always follow through. And through our embodiment, we might be still leaning towards one side of the expression, or we might feel really tendency to mingle with, if I'm a woman, you know, just with the feminine, and feeling comfortable just with the feminine, not feeling comfortable with the men, because, you know, they're doing so much harm, and they're sometimes possessive, and like this and like that. Those are just attributes that any soul in their physical expression can experience. It's not assigned only to men, but we have been doing that, and therefore, because we have projected so much beliefs into that, that became a living reality. And now it's time to neutralize that, to give ourselves a blank slate. So I'm wearing white today because of that, because my desire is always complete union with the whole, and feeling comfortable with every relationship, because you're seeing everyone as a soul. Everyone brings you a partial, a new understanding for you to step through, open a new gateway, and illuminate yourself a bit more. And because this is such a humble journey, it leaves you open, because only humility keeps you constantly open. There's no fixed line to how much you can grow, to how much you understand. Sometimes people tell me, well, you are like this, I wish to integrate what you do and what you say. It's like, well, it's not about that. Connect to the core of the creation. I'm a prototype, I'm a design. I was designed for a specific mission, for a specific reason. I am as I am. And there's no being, not just on this planet, but in the vastness of the whole cosmos, that is like me. And as humans, we have this tendency to like what we see, because it represents to us a certain amount of balance. And we say, I want to be like this too. Why not changing it and saying, I want to be my perfect representation of what in each moment I can embody as the highest aspect of balance for me. And that balance is a gateway to polarity integration in its own accord. So I wish to say that that's a part of my introduction message. I'm going for a short retreat for a while, because I was working very hard on my latest few projects and courses. So I'm taking a few days off, and next week I'll be back with the announcement of my new courses, which are super amazing. They are so deep, they're so rich with the illumined wisdom of what really makes us new galactic humans. I will announce that as I come back, so stay updated, stay tuned. But now I want to just bring forth a short message about this as a component to this highest aspect of life, because I want to say again, and there is an audio mini book offered on my page as the gateway of what Elohim truly means, as those beings that how they serve uniqueness of creation in their own accord, in their own specific specialization. So they are also in a way serving the divine mother of life, which is they serve creation in its form, expression, in its density, and maintaining the light quotient within certain light forms that become life forms, through honoring them, to have that sacred reverence, and to hold the DNA illumined. It's almost like this envisioning of what these forms were created for and what they were designed for, and understanding creation principles and the meaning of that. That is available. But now I want to say that even though that doesn't mean they in themselves are the expression of divine feminine, these beings, these group of beings, it would not be able to do what it does. And there's many different, again, there's many it's like vastness of diversity in creation. It's not like there's one group of Elohim and then it ends. There's everything in creation knows specialization, and it goes in these clusters of grouping of different aspects of life, because life is so diverse, and that is why. And it doesn't end with our own imagination of something, because with our consciousness expansion, our imagination will be expanding too. So I want to say that they would not be able to do their purpose. It would not be able to hold such a tremendous understanding if they did not see it from all angles and would not have complete polarity integration within themselves. And as masters of this, givers of life, creation pillars, they have the ability to share such messages. For those within the human realms to also align with what I call embodying Elohim consciousness. And it's not something that is outside. Everything in creation is a prototype for what we can embody, what we can align with, and therefore embody. So let's go on to the message part. Dear beloveds, once again, we're gathered here today to address a very important topic, and that communion and discussion in a way with all of you here present is important, because the union aspect that is occurring within many dimensional structures of creation itself. Because not only you are transforming, not only Gaia in her form is transforming as in a being of holding also an amount of embodiment, which you might notice at this level as a physical representation of Earth. But also, every single fabric of creation is undergoing a very deep transformation at this time. As you know, what is occurring, and many now talk about, the planet Jupiter is moving into Scorpio. And on a highest aspect, for those of you who have been truly integrating the self within the shadow and the light, this will not so much be about the things of shadow resurfacing and inner work and going deeper and deeper into the uncovering of that which you would say is the veiled self. But it is more about the union that comes as a creation aspect of that which you are already planting as the seeds within yourself. What is happening now at this time is very important for this process, and therefore a lot of you who have done this inner work will be birthing externally manifested unions that you have as a direct reflection of your own light quotient embodiment. So therefore, these unions would no longer represent to you that which needs to reflect the shadow aspect to you, so you can integrate it and bring that aspect into the whole as well. Whether that was a part of your own ascending experience, or that which you also assist the ascension of the whole as a volunteer soul. It does not matter. What matters is that the partial unions were gateway openers for the majority of the ascending souls, the ascending beings, who were the new prototypes for how ascension can look like now on this physical plane known as Gaia. Because as you know, Gaia, such as all beings, all souls, when they incarnate, when they embody, they always have different various aspects and planes of being. And as you can notice, this physical transmutation process within Gaia also occurring, you will see that when you spend a lot of time in nature. Everything, in truth, of the fabric of its essence is different. It's already altered. It's no longer the same as you have seen it perhaps just a few days ago. And that is all because so much light quotient has already been embodied on this planet, and therefore the physical aspect of it was able to undergo this transformation that resulted in intense transmutation that is still occurring, and that is all a part of the natural processes, the phenomena and weather changes that are happening on the planet, as well as the alchemical transfiguration process that only those of you who have walked through the gateway of illumined union would now start to notice taking place. So the union and the unions that would now be occurring would more align with that fully embodied self which you have in a way managed to incorporate through your light quotient embodiment. Those of you who are on this path of full polarity integration will simply be feeling very deeply when something is not aligned with that core truth through which every being was designed initially. which is the galactic male and the female component, so that they can hold a structure. Because otherwise, how can you believe that souls can incarnate either within male or female bodies if they themselves within their own creatrix design would not hold the imprint of the feminine or masculine forces of creation? It would simply not be possible. The gender on this planet was specifically created through the plane of free will, expression, and choosing to represent the most direct mirroring experience that would lead to a unique evolutionary process that would only be capable to be experienced in such a capacity here on Earth. And in those terms, whenever we say Earth is special, it means it is unique. Special does not mean it is chosen and it is only the Earth and it is the center of the universe. It is a very important planet, yes, because the final days when we talk about them in such matter are completing through the integration of polarities and that experiment that is happening not just here on Earth, but at galactic proportions. So whenever we say, well, we are entering a state of polarity integration, we have to be aware that that state will imply within itself many different prototypes. So once you achieve your earthly ascended form and this union with yourself, with the planetary core and the core of your creation self here on Earth as a part of your earthly ascension, you will simultaneously connect with the cord of light, with your core self, which always has this cord of light, through which you can travel to and connect multidimensionally to all your aspects. You would directly call those aspects that already are or are also in the process of ascension multidimensionally. And other aspects, or what you would say other realities that were birthed through other timelines. And again, time is a component which created everything. It was the gateway for all creation to become. And all these different templates of creation experience to manifest. To different regions of space, as you know, different constellations, different schools of learning within those prototypes, and different beings that would be evolving through those planes of experience. As a part of that experience, every prototype is designed as special, as unique. But why would you say, okay, even though Earth is special, it is special in its own way? It is because you yourself are remembering yourself as a being on Earth as special. Because you're remembering that what takes place here is so sacred, and because of what takes place here within this union, also multidimensionally can take place on other factors of these other realities. And because of that special component, you will realize the importance of this component, which is your physical ascension at this time. That which is attributed to your experience here on Earth is no less important to what you would say, it is my other dimensionally or extra dimensionally experience, because interdimensionally they are all connected as one. Because of that, that importance factor gives you the idea that that which is happening here now is so vitally important for your experience that it can no longer be prolonged or extended to, oh, it will happen once I pass on to spirit. It can wait. That specialness and that uniqueness relates only to that, to the understanding that ascension is now. And ascension on Earth is directly linked and interdependent upon all the other ascension, multidimensionally processing on other showcasing prototypes everywhere within the existence of all that is now. So what is locally of major importance and what is experienced here on Earth is also what is important on many, many other regions within the galaxy itself and beyond. By embracing this importance, you will embrace the importance of every being, every soul having their unique experience, and simply start seeing things beyond the eyesight of gender as it was associated with on the third dimensional scope of reality. It is your time now to contemplate how gender has benefited you in this journey. Why are you a male? Why are you a female? And how do you associate with that as a unique form? Your form was uniquely designed, so those beings nowadays who are in a way molesting or abusing their form to create a different form, they can only do that on the human level, trying to change the gender through which you were born and have chosen through your soul, and artificially on the human-made level, trying to create a new gender. You cannot do that because your template, your creation template, your creative template, when you chose to incarnate upon the earth, was either male or female for a specific reason. It is not to say that the free will is not to be honored and respected, but the free will of many is choosing the pathway of artificially changing the nature of your creatrix design. Whether those beings have artificially changed or altered their gender does not mean they're now a woman or a man, because before they were something else. And simply perhaps a surgical process makes them feel now they have a different body. The creatrix through which they were birthed is a sacred process, and that creatrix will not change, because that was a sovereign choice on the level of the soul. Many times when beings incarnate on earth, and because of their experiences or memories from other lifetimes, they will not understand, they will not always validate and value that sacredness of their personal choice, which is a sovereign soul choice. So when humans want to still play those gender-specific roles, either by wanting to artificially change their gender, by saying, I do not belong in this body, I want a different body, that is, yes, a partial experience which they create. But on the level of creation, something new, something different takes place when you embrace the sacredness of life as it flows through divinity, not artificially man-made choices. Of course, all choices of every human need to be respected, even if they choose that. Even if they choose the artificial change and alteration of their physical vessel, the genome still holds the remembrance of what was the initial soul choice. And that cannot be modified during this lifetime. You can alchemize and change profoundly within your body through the light and life force infusion, but what you cannot change is that which came through directly through the divine trinity of life, and that is what the Elohim carry as the seed of life, as the design of the creatrix, which is so sacred, and it holds the perfect formation, and it is a complete design when it comes from the level of the soul. It is not always honored on the human level, it is not always cherished, and yet that temporary experience and then temporary alignment with that which is not organic will still not alter that which is organic, which is primordial and chosen through the soul and the higher illumined councils of one. There are also other aspects when gender can be, in a way, either manipulated or distorted through those gender-specific roles and associations. So whenever we try to fit the beauty, the vastness, the majority, the illumination of creation and fit it into something that is a tiny box, such as our association with gender. So there is a difference we want to imply here, which is the perception of gender and gender itself. So when one changes their body artificially, they will perceive themselves now in a different gender. But the reality of gender remains. That is what we wish to imply here, because it is so sacred. Divinity, the laws of divinity cannot be changed. The laws of man are always changing because of the different variety of perspectives that are being embraced through each evolutionary process. And yet those of you who are remembering how going against that can affect you, and how it creates a lot of extra energy that you have to move through in order to unify back within the illumined template, which is what we want to address next. The illumined template, the design for the human being to exist within its refined perfection state of divinity directly translated into flesh, is that non-interfered, completely neutral, completely benevolent, angelic form of grace that can be translated into human form. And simply knowing that this can be so and aligning with that path is enough. But what is also required is the contemplation into every aspect, when this is not organic, when this is not naturally expressed and experienced, but would need to be somehow pushed. So let's say you feel the path towards your illumination would require that a certain gender of perhaps other counterpart would treat you a certain way. And because of that, you can now fully unify within yourself. That is not the truth, because you see, you are preconditioning your ascension process and your inner alchemical marriage with the act of what follows through on the outside, and your dependency on another being or group of beings or life in general. When conditions are such and such, I can be in such and such. When I am in this kind of environment, my body is in this way. Yes, that is in a way partially true, because when you exist in higher natural environments, your potency for higher frequency embodiment will rise, will be vaster. But in itself, that doesn't mean now that everyone who lives in organic natural spaces would become fully illumined just because the environment itself. Do you see? There is always an interdependency, but it is not a precondition in itself. And that is what interdependency means, instead of dependency. You're interdependent with your environment, with other people. That is a breathing through experience that is flexible, that is in flow, but it is not set in stone. The only thing that is firm, that aligns with the core of truth of your ascension, of your physical pathway into complete union and illumined embodiment, is only reliant truly upon yourself, your consciousness, and the attainment of that higher spirit here in form through the beauty and illumination of your soul. So treat your gender as sacred, as specific, but in no way disregard the other gender. And then go a step further and see gender as not this versus the other, my gender versus the other gender. Start recognizing beings as fellow souls, as fellow soul comrades, and open yourself to the beauty of the experience with every gender. Because only that leads to the path of benevolent androgyny, which is the acceptance of everything and all, and understanding that what you have chosen through the sacredness of the creatrix design is meant to be reverenced as sacred. And understood that that which we choose for a reason. And then choosing to align with the alchemical union that follows through as a part of that humble recognition. We wish you to be so open towards fellow humans as fellow humans, not addressing only men or women. For the gender of the third dimensional aspect, for those of you who are ascending, is completing its purpose in that format. And it's time for you to embrace the new format. Well, the gender will simply be a subtle, refined tool through which you have chosen the carrying out of the tasks that are creation mission specific, not gender specific. But let's say your mission requires more the attributes that the female body would, in a way provide for you, or a male body. And that is a choice understood on the soul level. When you connect, you know and you understand. And that has to be, again, honored and seen through the beauty and the eyes of creation itself. Because there is magnificence and only reverence in that understanding, which is not mental. It is the understanding that comes from the sacred heart of the cosmic beloved. And in that final statement, we wish you farewell, and with always so much love, wisdom, and power, until we meet again. So, as a part of our New Age opening, embracing path, there is a lot of talk about us as gods or goddesses. And there is truth to that, because we all hold the seed of our divinehood and that self-realization code when our soul is simply ready and fully matures into that aspect. But in a way, gods and goddesses are those who have become self-realized through certain gender. So let's say a master has achieved their self-realization in a lifetime when they were male or female. That is all that that God and Goddess word truly implies. We like to now use it, or sometimes even over-abuse it. Now everyone is a god and a goddess, and still we're not always behaving in that sovereign godly way. We're not always upheld through that highest integrity and divinity. So it is time to truly understand how to embrace this word, God, Goddess. There is that inner divinity within all of us as that seed of life. How matured, how much integrated we are in that essence, only Spirit knows. Our soul constantly integrates more and more light quotient, and at a certain point it is simply ready and itself realizes. Through which gender that occurs in that lifetime would then imply, well, that is a god or that is a goddess in nature. But that is all there is to it. So there might be certain specifics to the words God or Goddess, and yet at the highest aspect of creation, these are simply divine masculine, divine feminine polarity at its highest order of our creation self. And let us embrace that simple realization as that simple core truth without any sense of obligation towards those words, or any sense of using them when we are not ready to be in that essence space. So let us simply be who we are, divine beings, who are experiencing profound levels of expansion now at this time on earth. And we will be presented with every title of initiation through Spirit instead of human entitlement in our own divine timing, when we are ready, when our soul culminates, and when all of the heaven says, yes. Yes, you have passed that initiation. Yes, you have moved physically through liquid light embodiment into your divinehood on all levels of being. Congratulations to you, divine human. And so it is.